A 10 to 30% cut in Social Security benefits isn't a media scare tactic. It's the range projected by the Social Security trustees themselves. The number in their report? 21%, not 10, not 5. And if Congress does nothing before 2033, that reduction happens automatically. No vote required. But here's what most coverage misses. The real question isn't whether reform happens, it's who absorbs the cost. And depending on your age, that answer can shift your retirement timeline by years and your plan by hundreds of thousands of dollars. In a few minutes, I'll show you the one number that tells you whether this is background noise or your problem and exactly what to do about it. Under current law, the trust fund depletes in 2033. After that, incoming payroll taxes cover about 79% of scheduled benefits. That's where the 21% reduction comes from, automatic, unless Congress acts. We've seen this before. In 1983, Social Security was months from insolvency. Congress waited until pressure was unavoidable, then passed a reform package that raised the retirement age, increased taxes, and trimmed benefits. It was painful. And it passed anyway, because it always does once the deadline is close enough. That pattern tells you how to plan. Reform is extremely likely. Early reform is not. Serious action will probably come between 2027 and 2032, when the deadline starts influencing elections. So you don't plan for collapse, you plan for adjustment. Hold that frame. Everything else depends on it. Now let's make this real. If your projected benefit is $2,500 per month at full retirement age, that's $30,000 per year. A 21% reduction brings that down to $23,700. That's $6,300 per year gone. For a couple receiving $5,000 per month combined, that's $12,600 per year. Here's the part most people never calculate. At a 3.25% withdrawal rate, replacing $12,600 per year requires roughly $388,000 in additional portfolio assets. That's the difference between background noise and working longer than you planned. For some households, it's the difference between retiring at 62 and 67. But remember, 21% is the worst-case do-nothing scenario, and that's unlikely. You're planning for adjustment. That distinction matters. So how does Congress adjust the system? It sounds complicated. It isn't. There are 4 dials. Raise the retirement age. If full retirement age moves from 67 to 68 or 69, lifetime benefits effectively drop, especially for younger workers. Adjust the benefit formula. Lower replacement rates for middle or higher earners. That reduces lifetime payouts without announcing a cut. Raise or eliminate the payroll tax cap. Higher earners pay more into the system, more tax impact than benefit impact. Or adjust cost of living increases. Switching to something like Change CPI reduces annual increases slightly. That sounds tiny. Over 25 years, it compounds into a meaningful lifetime reduction. Quiet, gradual, powerful. The most likely outcome? A mix of all 4. Instead of one dramatic 21% cut, several smaller adjustments that add up to something closer to 12 to 15%. Not painless. Manageable. That's what adjustment looks like. Now let's make this personal. Congress protects the people closest to retirement. It always has. Which means your exposure depends largely on your age. If you're 45 to 55, plan on receiving about 75% of your currently projected benefit. If you're 55 to 62, plan at about 80%. If you're already claiming, or within a few years, plan at 90 to 95%. That's the political math. Younger cohorts absorb more change. Current retirees absorb less. Most people either assume the worst or ignore the issue entirely. You're going to do something more precise. Log into ssa.gov and pull your projected benefit at full retirement age. Apply your age discount. If you're 45 to 55, multiply by 75%. If you're 55 to 62, multiply by 80%. Let's say you're 48 with a projected $2,500 monthly benefit. That's $30,000 per year. At 75%, your planning benefit becomes $22,500. The gap is $7,500 per year. Divide that gap by 0.0325. In this case, about $231,000. has your buffer number. That's the additional portfolio required to neutralize reform risk. Now, the only question that matters, does your current savings trajectory get you there? If yes, you're done. If not, how many additional years of work or how much higher in annual contributions closes the gap? Run a stress test too. Instead of 75%, apply 65%. That's the number that holds if reform is worse than expected. Run both. The difference between them is your margin of safety. At 45, this is an adjustment. At 60, it's a retirement date decision. And every year you continue working, two things happen at once. Your portfolio grows and your delayed claiming benefit increases. The buffer number shrinks from both ends. Now, what about delaying to 70? For most healthy people, it still makes sense. A $2,500 benefit at 67 becomes roughly $3,300 at 70. If benefits were reduced 21%, the 67 benefit drops to $1,975. The delayed benefit becomes about $2,607. That's still $632 more per month. Over 20 years, that's more than $150,000 in additional income. Reform risk lowers the baseline. It doesn't eliminate the math. Delay still wins, even if benefits are cut. Here's the real distinction. A retirement plan that only works if Congress does everything perfectly is fragile. A plan that works at 75% of projected benefits is resilient. Resilient plans survive policy changes, market downturns, longer lifespans. The 10 to 30% range is real, but it's a planning range, not a prediction. So here's what to do this week. Log into ssa.gov, pull your projected benefit, apply your age discount, divide the gap by 0.0325, write that number down. Then run it again at 65% as your stress test. Once you have those numbers, you're no longer reacting to headlines. You're managing a specific, measurable gap with a savings rate and a timeline. Social Security may adjust. Your plan shouldn't break when it does. Now you know your buffer. Build it.